This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube. I just wanted to do a review of an interview a very credible colonel who used to work for the UAP task force recently did that I heard actually Ross Coulthart from News Nation talk about. A highly credible person. And let me just, before I review the interview, I'll show one clip of it here.
Non-human intelligence exists. Non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity. This interaction is not new, and it's been ongoing.
So there you go. It doesn't get any more clear than that. A highly credible colonel who actually used to work in the UAP task force going on the record there about unidentified aerial phenomena's existence. So let's go through some of the points, the main points he brought up in this interview he did for SALT that are highly interesting and give a lot of information on disclosure. He says non-human intelligence has been interacting with humanity for a while, and it's ongoing. There are non-elected people in the government that are aware of this. And keep in mind, he used to work for 3-letter agencies. He says he looks at people who have a very high level of access to information saying the same thing. Now, Ross Coulthart says he knows more than just these people, but some of the people he mentioned were Chris Mellon, Paul Hellyer, who I had his last interview, who was the former Canadian Minister of Defense. He says 2 members of the Gang of 8 in Congress are also very aware of inside information on this phenomenon and have spoken out about it. He said he has probably firsthand knowledge himself, according to Ross Coulthart's report on this interview. But the reason he's not talking about his firsthand knowledge and has to refer to other people is because of his security clearances and what he's allowed and not allowed to talk about. He says David Grush is one of the people that have come out and talked about this. Of course, he also testified to Congress about this situation. He said at one point, David Grush had the clearance to view presidential level material. That's how highly clear David Grush was. The colonel says the reasons why the government does not want disclosure: national security reasons, lack of a plan for disclosure, potential for societal disruptions, a possible non-public agreement with the visitors, the potential for a desire to cover up misdeeds that maybe have gone on within the government, not informing the proper members of government that should have been informed, probably regarding to spending related to this. He also says lack of priority is another reason, and it can cause issues with faith, traditions, and can cause people to confront the reality of their religious faith systems. He says, as far as the national security reasons, he understands that, but he feels that you could at least let some out. And he talks about, we do know some information about nuclear bombs and nuclear energy, but we don't know all the information. And he says it can be similar to this. He says it's irresponsible not to let people know. He says there could be a threat to humans involved in this, but you're withholding the nature of reality. It's not just secrets. They're withholding the reality that we are being visited from the public. And he feels that the public has the right to know that. And now he goes into the reasons why he feels we should disclose a moral issue. The nature of reality is not something the government should keep classified from humans, at least not the basic information. He said that misdeeds might be remediated if some of this information comes out. He says right now there is a situation where they are trying to prevent disclosure, and the work that's going into trying to prevent disclosure in the government is actually more difficult than the work it would be just to have more disclosure. He says preventing disclosure to prevent issues with this information being disclosed might actually cause a bigger issue if he says, quote unquote, catastrophic disclosure happens either by these things just becoming too obvious that they exist or another country, perhaps a rival country, disclosing it, then the government looks like they're lying, which with this whole drone situation, where they keep repeating the phrase "nothing nefarious," which, by the way, one of the signs of a psyop is when multiple people state the same language over and over again, such as "nothing nefarious." And this isn't the colonel saying it. This is other research I've done. Repetitive, multiple people within government saying the same sentence is a sign of something bizarre going on. He says global competitiveness is one of the reasons disclosure is not happening. But this is a situation that could affect us globally. And if there was more disclosure, there would be more brain trust on it, more scientific thinkers working on this situation. He says the Pentagon has already quietly said that there is UAPs out there that is not ours or our adversaries, hence the UAP task force, which he worked on. He says there's been congressional and Senate hearings on the subject. People that are paying attention to this understand that these things exist. He says, well, they haven't said it's non-human intelligence yet. When they finally admit that it's non-human intelligence, the conversation might just stop there. So disclosure might just be there's unidentified aerial phenomena in our airspace, and it's non-human intelligence. That might be the end of it. He said the government might be afraid other questions might arise out of admitting disclosure that they can't answer yet. That might be one of the reasons they're not disclosing. Now, here's some interesting information that he said, and keep in mind, he was part of 3 letter agencies. I'll put up his bio again, highly credible person. Okay, he goes on to say the universe is governed by conservation laws, and he says the laws of nature apply everywhere. There's a competition to survive. He says it's reasonable to assume that any other civilization wouldn't be any different unless there is absolutely no scarcity within their civilization. He says to assume these visitors would be good or bad one way or another is not a safe assumption based on the information that they have. He said interest in this from the public. I mean, there's a lot now with these mystery drones, the ones that are actually mystery, but he says it was peaking about a year ago when the Schumer amendment almost happened, but it was shot down and did not pass. A lot of senators right now feel they need to double down on this topic, which is still considered fringe to get more people looking into it. He feels that all parties should look into this. I agree. We do need Karl Nell to testify at these hearings. There you go, Stevie. I haven't seen that, but I'll look into it. I believe most of the drones are military drones. As many government officials have said at lower levels, either looking for some type of threat, responding to a threat, or a lot of people are saying, such as Lou Elizondo, they might be looking at the actual mystery drones or orbs, the more orb-looking drones that are out there that might be NHI, or showing up in the areas where those orbs are appearing to create confusion of people saying, oh, these are just drones, or there's lots of drones in the area. So, very interesting interview that I would suggest people watch.